Good morning, YouTube, and welcome to episode 2 of Speed Duels from the Slow Guy, establishing a baseline. So what do I mean when I say establishing a baseline? Well, it's something as simple as making your bed every single day. Taking one little step that makes your day that much better. Regardless of what you do, if you spend that 30 seconds to a few minutes making your bed every single morning, you've at least accomplished that. That one little step to make your day that much better. So how did I progress in the challenge? Well, starting off the week, I ran in a 5K race in a blazing time of 35 minutes and 52 seconds. And if that doesn't sound very fast, it's because it isn't. However, it's pretty decent according to my standards. It's an average of 11 minutes and 18 seconds per mile. So it's a starting point. Is it the fastest I've ever ran? No. Is it the slowest? Absolutely not. So we established the baseline for a 5K race. After that point, later on in the week, we traversed 15 hours across the plains of South Dakota, passing through the Badlands, Mount Rushmore, to Spearfish, South Dakota, the site of my 20th state and 30th half marathon, with high ambitions and hopes of making a new personal best. That was the plan, at least. I mean, the plan was to go downhill the entire way. If all else fails, just roll, right? Well, wrong. I started off the way I thought I should. Turned out not to be the correct way, be it elevation, be it heat, be it nutrition, be it whatever it is. I ran a blazing time of 2 hours, 50 minutes, and 58 seconds, averaging 13 minutes and 2 seconds per mile, which could be better, but it could also be a lot worse. It's tacking on a whopping 30 minutes to my personal best time. It's all right. We pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and keep on going. We take that as a starting point, or in this case, the baseline. So how did I do weight-wise? Well, part of the week, I did a good job monitoring what I ate, and obviously when you're on vacation, it's a little bit more challenging, but I tried my best to stick with it. So I dropped 2 pounds, putting me at 238 pounds, meaning I don't lose any money this week, which is great. So how did we do running? Well, we ran a whopping 26 miles, obviously half of that being that half marathon, which tacking on to a previous balance of $15.90 puts us at $41.90. So now it's time to invest. What do they have? Well, for starters, they have 4 core booster sets, which were random packs. Then they released 5 structure deck themes where you got anywhere from 2 to 4 decks per pack. They released 5 of those, and we have 4. Sounds like a great place to start. So, we start with a Match Millennium starter deck, which is the 4th in the series of 5 starter decks. This should at least give us 1 copy of every single card within those 5 sets. The eventual goal is to get a playset of each of them, but we start off with what we can. Since this structure deck came out a while back, it costs a little bit more than what it would have back in the day. Spending a grand total of $36.95, that drops our grand total now down to $4.95. But it was worthwhile in order to create inclusion to a whole chunk of the set. So what are we going to do with that $4.95? Well, we're going to save up a little bit and invest here and there. You'll see as we go. For now, you're looking at the skills and the binder that have the structure decks that we have thus far. Obviously, there are still plenty of empty gaps, but it's a pretty decent starting point, and that I feel pretty confident can get us places as we go. Now, it's time to enter this week's match. This week, our opponent won the die roll and elected to go first with his Tyranno Hasbury skill, Food Chain. He set 3 back row and normal summoned the Hydreigon, then activated the Food Chain's ability to tribute it to special summon Duodron from deck. Might be mispronouncing that name, but it's alright. We live with that. You can correct me down below. He double checks his 3 and he passes turn. Phenomenal opening play. So then we start off with, fortunately, a hammer shot after we were reading our opponent's cards, because it's good to read your opponent's cards just to fully understand what they do. I read the skill, I read his cards, just because I want to make sure that I'm not making any extra mistakes that I already will be. We start off with a hammer shot to destroy the Duodron, because Gear for the Iron Knight, which is the same deck that we're playing this week and next week, it cannot attack over it naturally. So we normal summon Gear for the Iron Knight, and continue on with a reinforcement of the army, because we're just trying to create some follow-up, because you never know. He activates Mystical Space Typhoon. Now, I don't know if he was A, memeing, or B, trying to clear up space, or C, this thought he could negate reinforcement of the army with a mystical space typhoon, but he activates it anyway, and I still get my search for Gearfried the Iron Knight, just for some follow-up for the following play. Now, we remember that there is no main phase 2, so we set a back row and proceed to attack his Hydreigon. He does not realize that Book of Moon does not affect Gearfried the Iron Knight with the Iron Grit ability. Still, just a beautiful skill. I wish that I just now need to make some changes into this deck than what you see here in the profile. He then activates Mystical Space Typhoon on my Book of Moon, which I target Gearfried the Iron Knight, ironically just as a humorous joke, because why not? This is obviously before Mystical Space Typhoon was limited to 1, so we're just going to continue on going. Now he summons out a Duodradon by tributing off his 2 face downs, or his 2 dinos in the graveyard, rather banishing them, and then proceeds to attack over Gearfried the Iron Knight, proceeding to do some extra little damage. Fortunately, we aren't afraid of the ability of time. It's no shame in making sure that you take your extra time whenever you're playing this game, especially in speed duels. Take that extra time. Ironically, in speed duels, you have more time than ever. So we normal summon a DD Warrior Lady, using her effect to banish herself in Duodradon just to clear up some space and give us a little bit more time, and making him genuinely run out of Duodradons to hopefully run out of resources. Then we normal summon a Gearfried the Iron Knight after he passes turn by setting a face down card, set a face down card of my own, attack for 1800 points of damage, putting him down to 2000 points of life. Then he's drawing his card, he's thinking, because what are the options? Turns out to be a Dynatank in hand, so the question is does he think he can survive another turn and then use the fusion ability of Dynatank, or does he need to set up a defense in order to make him survive this next turn? He decides to do the latter. Now again, there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of extra time, and this is what he chose to do. So he sets, passes, and I proceed to think, because I don't want to just shotgun anything at this point in time. And then I'm considering thinking as well, because it's difficult. We activate my Blaster Chain, targeting Gearfried the Iron Knight. Then Blaster Chain's ability will pop his face down card, which then turns out to be the Dynatank. He realizes now this is probably a bit of a mistake. However, in hindsight, if you didn't know that that was a Blaster Chain, that actually would have been a better play, because Dynatank itself has 2100 defense. Then he top decks off the top of his deck a dinosaur monster, which should then allow his Dynatank to actually resolve. Now he's thinking whether or not he wants to continue and just pass, but he realizes that this is game 1, and then we proceed to side deck for game 2. And now we proceed on to game 2. We spent a little bit of extra time figuring out the sideboard pattern, because he just built this deck and is figuring out what its capabilities are, also had to reread Iron Grit. Now the advantage of speed duels is you do have the option of taking a little bit of extra time, ironically, that even though you have, it's called speed duels, you have more time, because typically games go by fairly quickly. He proceeds to normal summon his Hydreigon, but then bring out his Duodradon and bring it back his Hydreigon. This is a phenomenal way of creating some consistency, and honestly, Food Chain is a phenomenal skill to kind of go with. He proceeds to pass turn. I'm taking a little time to think, because I do have a few options in my deck. I proceed by normal summoning out the DD Warrior Lady, because the goal is to remove his Duodradon again, so my Gearfried can attack on following turns. However, he does not like that, so he chains his Paleozoic Canadia to therefore set my DD Warrior Lady in face down defense position. I then proceed to set 1, set 2, and set 3 cards face down, and proceed to my end phase, because I can't do anything. Then he does chain the Mystical Space Typhoon to target one of my Mysterious back row. The main goal, I think, because I knew he had that Mystical Space Typhoon, was to try and protect some of my cards for later on. Then I pass turn to him. He's again thinking about how he wants to pass around going through my DD Warrior Lady. Again, taking that extra time, using your thoughts that you have, because while it is speed duel, it's not rush duels. You actually can take a little bit of extra time. He then uses his Food Chain ability to tribute out Duel in order to bring out the Dark Triceratops, which is phenomenal. I think it's a pretty great way of entering this play, because this will now do piercing onto DD Warrior Lady, even though it should give me the ability to use DD Warrior Ladies to banish them both. However, I don't believe he is done yet. He's going to proceed with a Fossil Dig, therefore allowing him to search his deck for another dinosaur monster. This phenomenal Again, just the ability to swarm the field, I believe, was his intention with the deck, though I don't fully know how it completely works because he himself was testing this as we went. He ends up searching for another Hydrodon because, again, I think the end goal is to attempt to attack for gain this turn or to try and do as much damage as possible. And this is the best way he found to do so. So he's going to proceed with his turn, then attacking into my face down DD Warrior Lady with Dark Triceratops. At this point in time, I believe Sphere Grebo is the correct play because Dark Triceratops doesn't have that big a defense. He's going to attack my DD Warrior Lady, which has the exact same defense as Hydrodon does have attack. So I choose not to activate DD Warrior Lady's ability because right now the defense is more important to me than the offense that it currently has. He then passes turn. I'm going to double check my face down cards, making sure I have the ability to continue to play. Because why would you set down a card if you don't remember it just 2 seconds later, right? I set down one more back row and proceed to pass my turn because I don't have a gear for the Iron Knight to attack over his Triceratops. Right now, DD Warley is my only line defense. I'm going to activate Book of Moon, therefore putting his Triceratops back in defense position because I want to keep my monster. Then he passes his turn. I draw off the top of the deck, then I top decking and reinforcing the army, which is really great, in the attempt to go for to actually push for some plays. There isn't an Ash Blossom in this match, so I don't fully know what I'm expecting his face down to be, but I'm still trying to learn all the cards myself. So I search for the good old-fashioned gear for the Iron Knight. I think this is super rare. Nice part is I have 3 different rarities of the deck, so I always know which ones I've already gone through. Normal summon gear for the Iron Knight, and then proceed to the battle phase, attempting to attack into his face down Dark Triceratops and succeeding, and then passing turn. At this point in time, he's going to draw from the top of the deck a Fossil Dig. This way, he's trying to debate what the proper line of action is, and he actually has pretty decent play going on here. He's going to search for Destroy Your Saurus, which then gives him the ability to search for a Jurassic World. I make some very terrible background music at this point in time, and then he's going to activate his Jurassic World, giving both his dinos a 400 attack and defense boost. Then, after this point in time, he's going to tribute off his Hydro to search for a duo and special summon out to the field, which would give him the ability to have more attack than both Gear Feed the Iron Knight and DD Warrior Lady. So, an excellent push if he can get to go through. He then proceeds to enter the battle phase after checking his back row because it's, again, better be safe, see what your resources are. Double checking Iron Grid because he doesn't want that to bite him in the butt again. He then attacks into Gift for the Iron Knight. I chain in a Blast of Chain and a second Blast of Chain. Again, I asked this last week and I'm still not 100% certain because I haven't looked it up or asked anyone else. Does the attack go through even though, and would the Blast of Chain be a separate chain, or did I time it correctly? So I activate both of the Blast of Chains, targeting Gearfried, destroy his Jurassic World and his Duolodon. That way his Hydrons don't have more attack than I do. So I attack over the shiny one for 200 plus damage, and then attempt to attack with the Warrior Lady over his Hydro. Therefore, he's trying to leave him without any extra resources. However, that's met with a Paleozoic Canadia. He has to double check just to make sure the chaining ability of Paleozoics. That took me years and years to fully understand, so I'm glad he's double checking it. Bringing out Canadia in defense position, therefore giving him an extra line of defense. I then pass turn to him. He takes, again, a little bit of time because there's no rush. There's no rush at all. Setting his face down card and activating yet his third Fossil Dig. This card is glued to his hand. Now, the options deck are a little bit limited at this point in time because we're kind of stalling and decking each other out, but it's a phenomenal game too. Searching out for another Hydro, and then shuffling his deck before switching to Hydro to defense, as well as intentionally bringing the other one out in defense position. I could have pulled Shark in, but there's not really a point because I think at this point in time we're just trying to pass turn. He then proceeds to pass 2, myself, at which point in time I have a back row and normal summon out the DD War Lady, or flip summon rather, but attempting to attack in his Gennady, which will then be banished, not by DD War's effect, but by its own, using another Gear Free to again attack the shiny one, because why not? He then activates the Mystical Place Typhoon during my end phase to the short back row, just because he doesn't want to blast the chain. Making sure that Canadia doesn't chain off of the Mystical Space Typhoon. It is, in fact, trap cards, not spell cards, but, you know, again, Paleozoics are difficult to understand when you're first getting into it. He then proceeds to think about setting a face down, because he doesn't, again, want to be burned like he was with the Dying Tank, so he sets a card and then passes his turn. At which point I top off the deck, another back row, which I'll attempt to set this time. We'll attack over his Hydro, and then attack for 18 points, 1800 points with the Gear Free there Knight, leaving him with 2000 points remaining. He then hard the cards, top of the deck, and we're going to see what happens. And he doesn't seem to have much to get through this. Fortunately, this is a great duel. Great guy. However, I just was able to out-resource him, and join us again next week. Again, this profile itself, this deck, is pre-ban list, so it will happen to be the exact same deck, with the Book of Moons being a little bit awkward in terms of what will end up happening. Again, we're just wrapping up here, and we're going to search for the Goblin Attack Force just to ensure that we have enough attack and monsters to be able to go through his last line defense. I'll get better about writing down names as well, hopefully, and that way I can tell you the names of my opponents, or if they so wish to see, and maybe take another profile of what they have. So thank you for tuning in this week, and I hope you join me again for episode 3 of Speed Duels from the Slow Guy.